Guys, welcome to the membership NFT party for Coinvise. Jenil and Coinvise team, guys, congratulations on a huge announcement, big launch, something that we've been entertaining, I guess, Jenil and I on the podcast since season one. But
Yep.
now we're seeing it come to fruition. And not only that, we're seeing a lot of creators use free NFTs and membership NFTs as a way, as a new model, to kind of build a community in crypto. So, first of all, congratulations. Rounds of applause. Woo! I'm gonna clap in my chest because I'm pacing in my room here.
Thank you, everyone. It's been very much rewarding, and NFT memberships. Like to give everybody perspective, I've been talking to Adam since season one, and Adam is on season six. So that's how long we've been talking about it. And for the longest time, I've seen memberships as like sort of this identity, like network of people, more so than monetization. But I was like really intrigued by like how communities are now using it more. And then I think like sometime last year I came across Guild, and they started working on a lot of like interesting use cases, and then just blew my mind, and started to realize more and more that memberships are going to be important. How do we sort of create like a mechanism where creators or communities can monetize, as well as offer like some special benefits, and still make it like very much interoperable. So if you have a membership on a different platform, it's all integrated. So that's sort of the approach we're taking. We're very glad it's finally out.
Dude, congratulations. And I also see Reiki came in from Guild and you guys announced
Hello.
Yo, yo,
Hello.
what up, gangsta?
What's up, guys?
What's going on?
I'm so
Welcome.
first of all, I miss you.
I
Second of
miss you
all,
too.
second of all, this makes me eternally happy that we could be of influence to you, Jenil.
Yes. I mean, I saw your platform, and just the fact that it made me feel like a hacker again, was just so cool. So yeah, I'm a big fan.
So, Janil, I want to start with this first question, okay? Because in the last couple years, we've seen the rise of token based communities, but they've typically used fungible tokens. They've used ERC20s as a way to
Correct.
bootstrap liquidity, as a way to align incentives, as a way to introduce really cool features like token gating. But now we're seeing the trend and narrative shift to more non fungible tokens.
Mhm.
Why is that? What's going on?
Yeah, so initially when we started out, we saw a lot of communities use like fungible tokens, and that was like a really simple way to, like it was almost like a representation of what we saw initially with governance and how like different kinds of platforms were distributing ownership. And so fungible tokens represented ownership largely. And then the use cases sort of trickled down. But what became challenging was designing your token distribution over time, and then like I guess the most difficult question was like, how does the token accrue value? And I feel like that was something more challenging for communities to figure out. And I think platforms in this particular question excelled really, really well because they understood that what their value add was, and the token was somewhat aligned, and there was like a value accrual mechanism. And some good examples of that was like ENS. We now saw Optimism. Now we've also seen like Axie Infinity. We've seen like different use cases of that. But with NFT memberships, like I said, like I'm really intrigued by this idea of like communal identity, and it's a great way to start a community where you can almost assign like a really unique asset as an identity object to every single person in your network. And essentially you're forming this social graph that not only like unlocks like access to the community itself or interactions. It unlocks so much more. And the fact that we can enable this in a way where you can configure your own sort of like unlock mechanisms, and value accrual is sort of built into it, that was like just really fascinating. So we decided to build memberships next, as a way where either you can start your community with an NFT membership and you can start distributing it as a reward, or you can start with a fungible token, or you can do it both, and sort of figure out like what works best for you. I can get more into that, but we wanted to give that level of optionality that you can start communities with a membership and use other platforms as well, or like do it with a fungible token. So yeah, it's really like Lego blocks which you can mix and match to build like your own like sort of workflow that fits best to you, if that makes sense.
That makes a lot of sense. And I think the coolest part about Coinvise is some of the biggest and baddest Web3 communities got started on Coinvise, specifically with your token minting feature. Um,
Mhm.
there's too many to count. Who are some of the more notable ones?
I guess RAC was initially like I guess RAC was like initially using airdrops and token distributions. That was pretty cool to have, at least in the beginning. But Forefront and Global Coin Research were like the two like very early users, and those were the people. Like I literally wrote the smart contract for Joyce from Global Coin Research, and then I deployed it myself, and then we ended up building it like a week later, like a token minting tool, because at that time there were like a bunch of websites that allowed you to create like a fungible token, but they were all like very much like hackathon grade websites, or maybe just like websites that were like too difficult to understand. I wanted to give like a very like hilariously simple experience for people to like create a token and start using it right away, and it was like 2 clicks away. So connect wallet, fill in the information, and click submit. That's literally it. No like nothing like above and beyond that. So I guess like GCR and Forefront like really helped us like blow up the minting thing, and even today like our most used feature is token minting, and then airdrops comes like as a close second. But yeah, that was pretty cool.
So I do think that's cool because I'm a part of both of those communities, and they're epic communities. And the tools that you guys have built
Mhm,
out have really enabled the formation of like random people to meet and congregate online. I think that's
mhm,
that's the beauty of Web3. You know, from my point of view, when we initially talked about NFT memberships around season one, Janil, it really got me
mhm,
thinking. I'm a creator myself. Mint is about a podcast for creator, the Web3 creator economy, right? And I've
mhm.
been giving out these free, I guess you could call them membership NFTs. I call them pins. You can call them whatever you
Okay.
want, as a way to build unity and build community, as a way to give back to my community for listening and
Right.
being a part of the podcast. And I think the fact that you guys built this feature out, it's been such a manual process for me. And I know that this new feature that you guys put together is going to help make that more seamless and more accessible to
Mhm.
everyone else. I want to ask you, like, how do you think about the difference between free membership NFTs and ones that people pay for? What does that look like?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. And by the way, you can do both. You can keep it free on Coinvise, or you can keep it paid if you wanted to do. But I guess free membership NFTs is more of like a way to like distribute rewards for people that are already contributors, because like we talked about, this is like when you're building a community, like and you're sort of thinking about creating memberships, you should already have like a strong like set of people that are like really excited about what you're doing, right? Like that's what like makes these communities really magical, is that small number of people get really excited about this one thing. So when you get to that particular point, you can reward those people that were there regardless of the incentives, right? Like they were just there because they wanted to be there. So I guess like in those cases, in your example, if people listen to your podcast and they like have been supporting you even like without any like real like any web3 sort of functionality, now it makes sense for you to like reward them for their support, and then you can expand into it and figure out who your like closest most like top supporters are, and then optimize the experience for them.
Yeah. I think another cool part about building a community around an NFT versus an ERC20, more fungible token,
Mhm.
is there's like this psychological effect of someone understanding what a ticket is and a ticket into something. A ticket
Sure.
that doesn't necessarily like fluctuate the way, let's say, I don't know, ERC20s may fluctuate. And the reason why I say that is like the first community, paid community that came to mind, one that did it successfully using NFTs as a way to build a foundation for something, was Developer DAO. And if you notice,
Right.
Developer DAO introduced a membership NFT as a way to let people in, their early access into the communities, to build a group of developers globally. And then once they issued the membership NFT, this non fungible token, then they introduced the ERC20 as a way to kind of tie in governance and more incentives into their community. That's sort of like the model that I'm seeing as to how creators are using these tools to build a community. Are you seeing something similar, or what am I missing here?
Oh no, absolutely. Even Bankless had memberships, and Developer DAO is a good example. Who was the recent one? Chaos, right? Chaos did a
Chaos,
pretty.
yeah.
They did an amazing job with membership and FC. I'm curious,
There's
like,
Proof, also Proof, Rug Radio. There's a ton of them.
oh yeah, yeah, absolutely. I'm curious, like this might be a good question for Guild. They've been like working on this on membership management for so long. I guess what kind of like interesting use cases you guys have seen, or like something that stood out, uh, that like, yeah, any communities that stand out for you guys?
I think I would like one of the most interesting that I've seen is I would also shout out RAC because like
True.
he's an OG with social tokens. He's one of the first artists to
Yep.
tokenize himself, and he had the idea to have like ranges of token holders within the community, and that gives like a very deep nice segmentation of the community, and segmentation only in the sense that do you have like 50 of my tokens or do you have 200, and
Hmm.
that's a difference of like longevity and also kind of like a monetary support. How hardcore of a fan are you? And he also combined these with non-fungible tokens, and I think this gave a very very nice depth to his communities. But I'm very much looking forward to more of the like what else can you do with these, what other platform can you get access to with your NFT, what other utility you have for the community for these membership NFTs. And that's what we're focusing on right now is like the cross platform permissioning in a sense.
Yeah.
I'm so excited about it because it's nice to gain access to a chat group, but that only goes so far. And we've seen in this cycle that it goes to an extent, but then what else do you do with that? And I'm so pumped to be working on it right now. We're gonna have a release soon, so stay tuned.
Beautiful.
Ooh, okay. I
I
see you.
see.
Janil, I also want to talk to you about incentivization and liquidity around
Sure.
NFT memberships because
Hmm.
I think one of the most interesting value adds that fungible tokens have is the liquidity pool that are kind of present when
Right.
somebody creates a pair on Uniswap where they do the token and Ethereum as a way to allow people to buy it at any time, anywhere. With NFTs, it's a little bit different, right? You
Hmm.
have the floors, as what people like to say, as a way to kind of like buy in. But how do you introduce liquidity beyond the initial pass? Like what are you seeing and what are some strategies you'd recommend for creators to explore?
Yeah, I'm really like interested in seeing like a continuous liquidity generation over like, like traditional liquidity with fungible tokens on Uniswap feels a lot like renting. So I'm fascinated by this idea that how do you do this sustainably in a continuous way, and people are gonna hate me for bringing this up, but for the 1000th time, Nouns DAO did a really good job, right? I think it's like a really good example of like how they've done like continuous NFT auctions. So I guess like that's what I'm most like secretly excited about with like NFT memberships on Coinwise is how can we natively build this into the workflow that communities can have like just recurring and continuous ways to like generate liquidity, and that can be a partly like what kind of value add does your community provide, and how can you do that on a recurring basis. This was very similar to like REC was a good example. Now that we're talking about him, was he had his Patreon. You can literally go right now, you can go to patreon.com/REC, and he had a really like strong community there where he used to give access to like some of his music and some of his work, and it was just early drops as a service, but he did it again and again and again. And even outside for like just personal creators or communities, I think it's a very good way to start is, I guess, start with an invite only group of people, figure out what your value added is, and slowly start like giving out membership to people for some kind of like, I guess it could just be an access to a social club, but it could sometimes also be like a product, or some kind of like a service that they're providing. So yeah, continuous liquidity generation, NFT auctions, what NounsDAO is doing is just absolutely beautiful.
So is the way to just like fork announce DAO? Someone that comes to mind is Logan Paul with 99 Originals and
Yeah.
how he essentially forked the Nouns DAO model. And I think he has about 750 ETH in his treasury. that's
Right.
allocated towards soon to be 99 people that will manage the DAO. By show of hands, have you guys heard of Logan Paul's Nouns DAO? I'm curious to see if I'm just like talking in thin air. I wonder if that, I don't know if that really hit like the traditional like NFT crowd. I know a lot of people like give him a hard time, but
Mhm.
I think it's actually a really innovative concept to introduce. And I feel like he can just sell anything at this point. It's wild.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, it needs to be like very evident. So I guess like on a very baseline level, if you're doing like a membership or even a fungible token, people should know what it stands for, or what it ends up being is like a lot of speculation and confusion, and it just gets worse and worse and worse. So I guess like it's very important to have that clarity as to like what it stands for in the beginning. But yeah, I guess like Logan Paul is his like sort of audience and presence might play into the factor. I'm curious, like if how that like model will work if somebody else would have forked it. Have you seen like any other forks that have done like a similar model of like continuous NFT auctions, or maybe like even royalties?
um, no, I mean the only thing I can think about is creators just using editions as a way to, introduce distribution, to introduce and
Yeah,
get more people to join their community. The one that comes to mind is someone like Daniel Allen, for example,
sure.
who uses like editions to kind of mint multiple music NFTs at once, either through sound or whatever. And with that, the music reaches like a whole new audience, like the art itself, using the NFT as a tool, right?
Hmm.
And people connect with that in a whole other way. You know what's also interesting? Music NFT collectors, they hold, man, like they hold, and
Yeah.
I'm not sure why they hold for so long. I'm convinced it's because there's more to appreciate beyond just like a piece of art, like a PFP. Like there's music, there's a certain emotional connection to it. So the way I see music NFTs is that NFTs are just a tool, right? It's a
Hmm.
tool that you can duplicate across many different mediums, use cases, etc. And I think NFTs as memberships are the most prominent use cases because it's just like the most hanging, non-threatening fruit that someone can kind of latch onto that feels very similar to the real world of joining a club of some sort, right? You either pay like an annual fee and it's on a reoccurring basis, but you get a pass, like you become a member of something. And
Yeah.
they just emulate that feeling much more than any other fungible token, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's like very like simple to understand, but also at the same time it's like very much like this sort of utopian the network state kind of a idea of like, like building an economy, and that economy has like just a bunch of like people with just identity identifiers that represent like what they've been doing. So I'm like very interested. I guess like this could be a very good time to like talk about what we're doing differently with Coinwise NFT
Yeah,
memberships, how people can
love
use
that.
it, and how we're using Guild, what we're trying to do with plugins. So yeah, so NFT memberships on Coinwise, you can create it on Ethereum or Polygon. There are a fixed supply for now, editions of NFTs that you can create for a particular price in ETH or Matic, and they're valid for a certain period of time. So you can define that time to be 1 month, 3 months, 1 year, or even lifetime, and you can renew it. So this is very similar to like a recurring revenue kind of a model that we've seen with subscriptions. Is you can, let's say, if the validity of the NFT itself is ending in 3 months, you can choose to have it renewed, so your members can renew it, or you can just keep it one off, where it's more like seasons of how communities iterate and evolve. So you define those criteria, and then you can define benefits of what that NFT tier would unlock. So those benefits could be access to media, music, merchandise, community interactions on Discord, Telegram. But we've also built something called plugins, and plugins is where we're trying to like, which is like sort of the unique aspect of Coinwise. And plugins are just benefits that we have verified and built for you. It's like almost like we've like packaged it and built it for you so you can use it out of the box. And these are utilities that we've identified and are very much validated as a strong use case for how you should use your membership. And this satisfies two things, right? It's like a very composable way where every membership tier can be unique in its own way, as well as it's very much um, like you can define your tier with, like, let's say token gating with guild xyz. We're going to work with gitcoin to integrate public goods funding, so you can say that all the revenue from this membership tier, let's say 2% of it goes to public goods funding. So we've verified like very validated ways to like provide utilities for the tier itself that you can just embed into it. You can also embed an airdrop, so you can say that whenever somebody purchases this tier, they automatically get an airdrop. So we've created like I think 3 plugins for now, and we're gonna introduce a plugin for events. So we're gonna, you know, integrate with a platform that does events really well, and then offer a way to like token gate events. So with these plugins, you'll have like a way to like provide benefits in an accountable way, because for the longest time, when you purchased editions earlier, there was no accountability, right? Like 6 months, 12 months down the line, it was very difficult to see if you really got the value back when you invested in it. But in this case, with plugins, these are like verified ways where we can programmatically ensure that community members get value through like Discord token gating, events, public goods funding, even splits. Yeah, so I'm really really excited. It's fairly simple, and yeah, it's live, so anybody can use it.
Jenil, have you ever seen a scenario where a community has wanted to shift from a fungible token to a non-fungible token? And if
I
so, how
mean,
does that work?
yeah, I mean, we've seen a lot of like communities in like the recent cohorts of Seed Club try like maybe just in almost entirely operate on NFT memberships, which is kind of a interesting like I still feel like they both play very much complementary to each other. So I token minting fungible tokens will always stay on Coinwise because NFT memberships and fungible tokens are very much complementary to each other. But a lot of recent seed club communities are starting purely with membership gating. I think they're using guild and they're creating membership tiers. Either they launch, I guess, the new like, or I guess the recent stack is they launch on Mirror and they create these Mirror editions. They start a Discord or a Telegram, and then it's sort of like the uniqueness sort of trickles down from there, like depending on what kind of community they are, they use the platform. But yeah, we've seen a lot of them. They're still like very early. I mean, if you count down the number of mature communities, they're not that many, unless I'm wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see like where they are like 6 months, 12 months down the line, if they are indeed like sort of long term, yeah, communities.
So I want to provide a quick like bullet list. When should somebody consider using an NFT, Janil?
Yeah.
And when they do consider it, what are some hurdles that they can expect to maybe kind of come through? Because we are still in the early days of Web3. And how do you
Mhm.
recommend overcoming those hurdles?
Yeah, so I guess like a good time for you to start membership is like memberships are an excellent bootstrapping mechanism phase. So when you're starting a community or if you already have one, you should consider launching memberships. Unlike fungible tokens, um, this isn't as like challenging to figure out like what the distribution is or what kind of token design you want, because NFTs are more like, I guess you can say that they have a lot more mainstream adoption, or they're much more digestible, and memberships as like even as a function has been around for a really long time. So I guess this very like feels very native. So you should start, if you're starting a community, it's a great way to bootstrap or kickstart. It can be a very good way to fundraise or monetize, like I said. So if a lot of communities tend to be underfunded, they rely on grants. I guess like the best way to fundraise is directly from your community. So if that is indeed your goal, you should consider launching memberships, and could be a good way for you guys to fundraise. And then once you do that, and once you sort of have like a really good monetization framework, you can consider maybe like more sophisticated ways to like see like what kind of governance do you guys want and how do you allocate your treasury, diversify, which is which is gonna come maybe later. But yeah, that's I guess the best time to start. What was
Yeah,
the
so
other question?
no, I guess like that's a great time to start. And when someone gets started, are there any hurdles that they may come across because we're just so early into crypto and so early into NFTs that maybe Coinvise helps like I guess like narrow down, minimize using the tools that you've built and whatnot?
Yeah, I think like one of the hurdles that most communities always tend to have is like growth is very simple, but retention is really really difficult. I guess the one like hurdle that I guess everybody has today is like how do you retain members, and more importantly, how many of these people are participating. So for Coinwise, like if people asked us like what kind of problem are you solving, I guess participation is something that is very, very core to all of our tooling. Is how do we increase and even retain participation within like a community? And membership is a great way to figure out who sort of from your audience truly supports you and truly values sort of what you're trying to offer. And I guess like that can be a hurdle to figure out is like what is sort of our value add as a community, and I guess like plugins that come out of the box are a great way because we sort of build utilities for you that you can add in like a few clicks, and it's a way for you to even like transport your membership to other platforms and use it elsewhere if you wanted to. So uh, we've sort of made it so simple to like take your membership with you wherever you go, and compose like using a lot of different like utilities like out of the box. I think that like simplifies a lot of decision making because the less decisions you make or the more choices you have, it gets even more challenging. So yeah, it's definitely much easier to like figure out like how you're going to go about it, and the workflow is a lot simpler.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I wanna open up the room to questions
Sure.
from the audience. If anybody has any, raise your hand, ask away. Rekha, as we wait for people to kind of raise their hand, what are you seeing at Guild be more favorable? Are you seeing more NFT based communities or more fungible communities that use ERC20s? What are you seeing?
NFTs, hands down. I see the trend of ERC20's rise. I think that was like last year and early this year, and throughout from spring till wait, I lost timeline. Anyway, for the next past like 6 months, people have been very wary of token issuance. I think that might be of security reasons, and also the liquidity is a gigantic headache. That is not the case with NFTs, and they also have a picture with them that you can look at, or have some artwork, have some metadata, so it more directs people towards identity, which we and Jenny, you also talked about, is super important in communities. And I've seen those. Like most communities using us, they have NFTs, and they're also super easy to launch with tools like Coinbase. And if you have a smart contract person on hand, people could have do it. People could do it before. It was harder, but I see NFTs as a gigantic trend, and I wholeheartedly agree that a lot of communities don't have the token economics and liquidity providing and like legal side to them to figure out the whole ERC20 scenario and what is a legal issue and what is not. And NFTs are like great for solving that.
Yeah, I think this was awesome. I think this was really great.
Amazing.
Congratulations on the launch. Congratulations on the new features. I'm super stoked to be trying them out myself. And yeah, guys, thanks for coming out. Until next time.
Thank you, man. As always, appreciate you, everything you've done for us. And thank you, Guilds. Thank you, everybody that showed up. It means so much to us. Please go check it out. If you have any feedback, my DMs are open. Always feel free to message me. We're here to help as in the best way possible. So yeah, really appreciate everybody joining in, and yeah, can't wait to share like a lot more updates.